Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to discuss about agents of pollination. There are mainly two categories, abiotic and biotic. And we know abiotic means all the non-living things and biotic means living things. Let's first discuss about abiotic agents. So these include natural forces like wind and water. The pollination by wind is also known as anemophily. Okay, so wind pollination or anemophily is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower with the help of wind currents. What are the characteristic features of wind pollinated flowers? Wind-pollinated flowers show special adaptations. Their flowers are usually small, inconspicuous, and not showy. And flowers lack bright colors, nectar, and fragrance. Why? Because they don't need to attract animals or insects. Okay? And the pollen grains are produced in large quantities. It's not possible every time for pollen grain to reach the proper stigma and on time. So most of the pollen grains are wasted. That's why they are produced in large quantities. So they have to be carried with wind. They are light-weighted, dry, and smooth so that wind can carry them easily. So sometimes they have wings or air sacs to help in floating. And the stamens are long, they have well exposed filaments, and they have a versatile anthers that swing freely to release pollen easily into the air. And their stigma is large, feathery, and branched that increases the chance of catching pollen. They are well exposed to air currents. The flowers are often found in clusters or inflorescences to release and capture more pollen. And there are many examples of wind pollinated flowers. First are grasses, and grasses include wheat, rice, maize, and sugarcane. Trees include coconut, palm, date palm, and pines. Bamboo, other grass family plants are also included. What are the advantages of wind pollination? It does not depend on external living agents, okay? And pollen can travel long distances. And what are the disadvantages of wind pollination? It is very wasteful. Huge amount of pollen is lost, less efficient compared to animal pollination, and it depends heavily on environmental conditions like wind direction, speed, humidity. So wind pollination is simple, cheap, and common in grasses, cereals, and some trees. Flowers are dull, pollen is light and abundant, and stigmas are feathery to catch pollen. This is an example of a wind pollinated plant that is showing compact inflorescence. You can see here, and they have well exposed anthers. The flowers are grouped together closely. This ensures that a large number of pollen grains are released from many stamens at once, increasing the chances of reaching other flowers. And here you can see they have feathery stigma. Okay, the stigma is long, branched, and feathery. This large surface area helps in effectively trapping pollen grains floating in the air. And the flowers are not colorful or fragrant since they don't need to attract pollinators. Instead, they rely completely on wind for pollination. I hope this diagram and wind pollination is clear to you all. Now, second one is pollination by water, is also known as hydrophily. So water pollination or hydrophily is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma with the help of water as an agent of pollination. It is less common compared to wind or insect pollination and it is mostly found in aquatic plants. So there are mainly two types of water pollination. First one is hypohydrophily and second is epihydrophily. Hyperhydrophily means pollination occurs underwater, and examples are Vallisneria, okay, where female flowers are submerged. Vallisneria have long stalk and the male flowers or pollen grains are released onto the surface of water and then they are carried passively by water currents. And second example is Zostera, that is known as seagrass. And epihydrophily means pollination occurs on the surface of water. Examples are again Vallisneria and Hydrilla, where male flowers float to female flowers. And second is Hydrilla. Now let's know about the adaptations of water pollinated plants. Their flowers are small and inconspicuous, no bright colors, nectar, or fragrance. And their pollen grains are produced in large quantities. They are light-weighted and sometimes they are mucilaginous, means sticky. That prevents them from wetting and sinking. The stamens and anthers are positioned in such a way that pollen can easily be released into water. Okay, and the stigmas are large, sticky, and feathery, in some cases to trap pollen from water. And the pollination by water is rare in flowering plants, and it is only limited to about 30 genera. Okay, and they are mostly monocots. And we know about the lower plant groups like algae, bryophytes, and pteridophytes. And we know their distribution is limited. Why? Because they need water for the transport of male gametes and fertilization. So here you can see this is a picture of Vallisneria. This diagram shows how pollination takes place in water plants like Vallisneria and Hydrilla. And you can see here the female flowers are long-stalked and they reach the surface of water. So they expose their stigma. And these male flowers are produced in large numbers. They are short-stalked and often detached from the plant. And once detached, they float freely on the water surface. Okay? And then we know the floating male flowers are carried by water currents and eventually they come in contact with the female flower's stigma. So in Vallisneria, pollination usually happens at the surface of water and in Zostera, pollination happens underwater. And water hyacinth and water lily are also aquatic plants, but they are not pollinated by water. Instead, they rely on insects or wind for pollination. Because water hyacinth has beautiful, attractive violet blue flowers, and these flowers are above the water surface. Thus, it is not hydrophilous even though it is an aquatic plant. And water lily flowers also rise above the water level. They are large, showy, and fragrant to attract insects. And in water lily, pollination mainly occurs by insects. Sometimes wind may also help, but water plays no role. The true water pollination is only seen in Vallisneria, Zostera, Hydrilla, where pollen grains are carried by water, and in aquatic plants like water hyacinth, water lily, true water pollination is absent. So not all aquatic plants are pollinated by water. And what are the advantages of water pollination? It is effective in aquatic habitats where insects or wind may not work. Okay, and disadvantages we just discussed about it is very rare, only 30 genera in water plants. Pollen loss is high and it is limited only to certain aquatic plants. Now, third one is pollination by animals. And pollination by animals is also known as zoophily. Okay, so in this process, animals such as insects, birds, bats, snails, and even mammals transfer pollen grains from the anther to the stigma. Okay, this is the most common type of pollination in flowering plants. Let's discuss about types of zoophily based on animals. First one is entomophily, that is known as pollination by insects, and this is the most common type of zoophily. Okay, examples include sunflower, mustard, rose, jasmine. Second one is ornithophily, pollination by birds. So birds like hummingbirds, songbirds, and honey eaters transfer pollen. And their flowers are brightly colored, tubular, and produce lots of nectar. Examples are hibiscus and bignonia. Third one is Chiropterophily, pollination by bats. And bats visit flowers at night. Flowers are large, dull-colored, and strongly scented. And examples are Bauhinia and Adansonia. Fourth type is Melecophily, means pollination by snails. It is very rare. It is found in some marshy plants. Examples are Lemna and Alisma. Okay. Fifth one is mammal pollination, that is known as Therophily. Some mammals like monkeys, lemurs, tree shrews help in pollination by feeding on nectar. Examples are certain tropical flowers. Okay, so what are the adaptations of animal pollinated flowers? They are brightly colored, they have pleasant fragrance, they produce lots of nectar. It serves as a reward for animals. They have sticky pollen grains. Why sticky? To attach easily to animal bodies. Their flower shape is tubular, large, or with landing platforms to guide animals. And their timing vary, like some open at night, the bat pollinated, and others in day, bird and insect pollinated. Let me write them down. Okay, so these are the main adaptations of animal pollinated flowers. What are its advantages? It is most efficient than wind and water pollination. It increases chances of cross pollination and it leads to greater variation and evolution. Okay, and disadvantages are it depends on animal availability. It is energy costly. Like plants need to produce nectar, fragrance, and colors. Zoophily means pollution by animals. Most common agents are insects, birds, and bats. And flowers are adapted with bright colors, scent, nectar, sticky pollen that leads to efficient and targeted pollination. I hope this topic, agents of pollination, is clear to you all. That's all for today. I'll come back with another video soon. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.